Boom.
Welcome to the morning show, Joe. How are you?
I'm good. A little later start today. Fully
Yeah,
awake.
I've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning, watching the Quad Cross of Nation. But yeah, it's yeah, a little bit later start, but we'll get into it and go for it. The uh the Team USA guys pulled it off.
Yeah, we were telling me well, I don't want to skip ahead, but glad we won.
Yeah, it's always a great thing to watch. One of these days I'd love to be able to do one of the shows where I commentate that thing live, where we talk about each moto, but they break it up into, three different motos. There's an hour lag in between. They run the sidecars, in between them, which isn't a bad thing. Those guys I actually watched a couple of their guys are just purely crazy. I mean,
Oh yeah, I mean, who wants the job of riding in the sidecar? Those guys are certified nuts.
1,000,000%. Yeah, there's just no way that you could ever get me to do something like that. I watched one guy, come off the sidecar, and that would break my body into all kinds of little bitty pieces. It was unbelievable, unbelievable. But it's just all part of motorsports and racing, and um, I don't see an American team over there doing that. Those are
That's
all European teams.
The Europeans are wild, man. They'll race anything. It's one thing I like about those guys is like if it's got a motor, if it's got wheels, they'll race it. They don't care.
Right, right. You know, as far as the results go for the Team USA, I only have the results for the USA. I didn't stay on long enough to find out who got second. I didn't keep track of the other team's finishes. I think I think Argentina got third is what I think happened. Um, but I don't want to, stick my foot in my mouth because they had some pretty good finishes. Estonia started out the day really good. Saar was in third on the first race and ended up not finishing for whatever reason, But Hetrick Hogue came out on fire. Hogue getting a whole shot. Hetrick freaking, eventually taking over the lead. They went 1-2, stretched it out, destroyed the competition. Um, I was really surprised that Harry Walker, the European champion, didn't have a better showing. He seemed to struggle a bit. Maybe his starts weren't as good, but Kevin Saar, when he did get to run, he did real good. Rillo, one of his teammates, a young guy, he's somebody to watch. He's fat. He seems to be faster than Saar. I'd like to see that kid come over to the States and ride. I think that he would do really well, you know. And Torini from Italy, he was fast as always. So there's some really good talent over there. Love to get him over, all of them over into the States. The second race was Hogue and Ford. Ford got the whole shot. Hogue came out a little bit behind in eighth and worked his way through by full, but it was a 6 laps. He was in second. Hard to pass, deep ruts, really rough track, but great riding by the Americans. They kept using different lines. They wouldn't stay in the ruts. They'd come across the ruts, or they would make lines inside the ruts. In the third race, you saw some of the other guys from other countries catching on and using some of those ruts or lines. But going into the third race, the U.S. only needed to score 1 point to get the best score and win. I believe they could have, because you have a throwaway. I believe they could have gotten last place and still won the overall, which, that being said, Hetrick broke a chain on lap 2.
Oh, so who ended up winning the third moto?
Bryce Ford.
Nice. Who was leading when Hetrick broke?
Torini. Bryce had got himself into third or fourth at that point. Within 2 laps after that, he was in the lead. So Joel had already had, if I'm not mistaken, a 17-second lead or 15-second lead. He'd already just jumped out to a huge lead. But unfortunately hit a rock or something, because they run in a motocross setup, they don't run any protection of any kind. You generally don't need it on the motocross tracks, but the ruts were so deep, he probably caught a rock and just broke the chain.
Well, that answers that question. I was going to say, yeah, do you think that he broke the chain because they don't run any kind of sprocket guard protection, anything like that?
I almost think that in some of the cases, from everything that I know about the European tracks, I would run a guard or something like that, so to prevent that. But there again, Baldwin and those guys, they've been over there. I've been over there too, but not the same way that they have. But you kind of figure they would have built in some type of protection for that, because this isn't the first chain problem that we've ever had. I think it's they had a carrier with Wienen last year, with one of the other guys, they broke a chain one time. I think they've had another issue with a chain, if I'm not mistaken. But they three-peated 17 and 18 and 19. They three-peated 22, 23, 24. We'll see what the Team USA is going to do in 25 or 425. In 20 and 21, everybody knows why we didn't go. But that's kind of it in a nutshell for the Quad Cross of Nations. You had a question during the phone conversation that we had before the race, the third race. Why don't you hit me with that question again so that we can dive into that conversation again?
Oh, are you talking tires? Oh no, I was just curious because I don't race, but I'm a parts nerd, and I just wondered why. I wonder if any of these guys, when you go to a track like that has really deep ruts, and as you and I also talked about beach races and how the beach race guys run really tall, skinny tires, and kind of actually adds to the question of, I wonder, do the American racers, do you think any of these guys experiment with larger tires? Now, obviously, you might, conventional thinking is, oh, you got to have the little 18s, get your bike lower, faster in the corners. But, for a track like that gets super ruddy where you could be dragging, you know, I remember Southwick back in the day, deep, deep, deep sand. We don't run there anymore, but I wonder if for tracks like that, would there be enough of an advantage to run a 20 in the back to get the bike up just a little bit, or is it going to detract that much on corner speed? I mean, obviously the rutted line is probably the fastest line until you can't run it anymore. So you're either going inside and scrubbing speed, or you're going outside and covering more distance. You know, I wonder if these guys play with like a cross country tire ever, other than in a mud situation, and if there'd be any advantage to it.
I don't think that they do, because they're worried too much about losing. It takes more power to drag those tires. And with a 6-ply or an insert, it's just adding, you know, horsepower, robbing weight. Plus, I don't think that the 20 in the rear gives you enough justification to run it. If you were going to do something like that, you would almost want to go to a narrower tire and taller, even lighter, because that's what they do in the beach races. I'm not sure, because I haven't dove into it real deep, if they do an insert inside those 2-ply beach style sand paddle tires they're running, or if they just run them the way they are. It seems to me like they would have to run some type of protection inside those 2-ply tires because they would fail or come apart too easy. A sidewall tear or something like that, because those beaches aren't, or the sand areas they're racing aren't always clean. There might be a rock or some type of material in there that could cut a tire. I mean, I don't know. We'd have to get one of those guys on and talk to them about it.
Are most of the motocross guys in the States running a tire insert?
When I talk to them and I can get them to really open up, they do in the rear and nothing in the front.
Are they doing it more for just so they don't lose a moto, or is it so they can run a lower tire pressure and get a better ride quality?
I can only tell you what I know from running inserts, not from what they're testing. Um, it actually gives you better traction. The tire stays planted on the ground better. And depending on your insert and depending on your air pressure, A, you don't have to worry about the flat, and B, it just helps with the drive. Um, it adds a little bit of weight, so some of the guys are concerned that it's robbing horsepower, which it does to a point. So an air tire is going to be faster, but an air tire doesn't get the same flat bite on the ground, in my opinion. Even when you take air out of it, it dishes in the middle. So you have to get it to grow, and force it out with speed, which when you're underpowered does a little bit, but not enough. What we noticed when we would run balls or the blocks is the tire would just stay flat on the ground and bite the terrain better. Your actual tire wear would go down and your straight ahead drive would go up.
Oh, and I know that there's something very similar in mountain biking because that's my weekend fun gig. And inserts are really big in mountain bike tires, especially in the rear, cuts down pinch flats. You can, you can run at lower tire pressure. I see guys running so low. I don't quite understand it. I like less rolling resistance of having some pressure in the tire, and these guys are running air. It's not like they're going like the GNCC guys where they're running 1 or 2 pounds, but they use them in mountain biking so they can air down a little bit and not get pinch flats and get better grip, better ride quality out of the bike because then the tires help absorb bumps better and they don't rebound as harshly.
I run in my mountain bike, I run uh,
Cush core.
a white chemical or white goo inside of it. Uh,
Whoa, Lenny, come on now. Family show.
this is still a child's thing. I forget the name of it.
Stands.
Stands. Yeah, I run stands in there. And the reason I went to it is because, I was trying to get traction, so I'd run lower pressure. When you went with a tube, you had to run higher pressure to keep from the pinches, and then you lost traction, and the bike wouldn't stay planted in the dry, slick conditions out here. So I went to the stands, dropped the air pressure down, allowed the machine to be more planted. Because I have a tendency to fall down, and I wanted to not fall down as much, and that helped quite a bit. And then I didn't get flats, so it was
Oh
just
yeah, I mean, I run stands. I run stands in my full suspension bike, not my hardtail. My hardtail is all about laziness maximus. So I don't run stands in my hardtail just because I don't ever want to have to change it. If you run a tire sealant like stands, you've got to switch it out once a year. So if you haven't changed yours out in a year, it's time to pull the tires off and wipe them out as best you can and reload because that
no,
stuff does have an expiration date.
it's
Um,
easy. Here, I got you beat. You just take it in, have your bike service, have the stands replaced, and let that guy deal with it. I'm not going to do it. It's just not going to happen.
yeah, but yeah, we run that in our full suspension bikes for sure.
Yeah. So
And you lose about a half pound of rotating mass when you go from tubes to tubeless.
I never noticed that, but maybe because I wasn't as in tune to it. I did it sheer for the fact when I started doing it, I got 2 or 3 flats right in a row and fixing the tire out on the in the terrain or the thorns that I was running into. I just couldn't tolerate, being done and having to freaking drag the bike back, um, or carry all that extra gear to air your tires up.
Yeah,
So,
it works for things like thorns, nails, things like that. Tire sealant works really well. I mean, you can pull a thorn right out, just spin the tire, it'll seal right up. I did I got a hole in a tire once. I was running a tire sealant that was it was a stick, and it was about 2/3 as big around as my pinky finger, and the end was broke off, so it was really sharp, but it just right through the tire. And yeah, stands can only seal so much. If you get a 1/4 inch gash, probably not going to work. But if for thorns, nails, things like that, it'll save your ride. And
right on. Yes, it will. Another thing that you brought up to me was you asked me about the guys over in Europe or at the Quad Cross of Nations if they could run hybrids. And yes, there were a lot of hybrids in that field. And you also said something about, when were the manufacturers or when were the race series is going to stop making them be production machines here in the States. Works has already gotten rid of that rule. I do not know if that's going to change in motocross or cross country. I wanted to get into a deeper conversation with you about the hybrids and what your thoughts are on it.
I'm I used to kind of be, I mean, if we had 2 or 3 brands, I'd say let's run production rules. But at this point, I'd say no. Let's let them run hybrids. So you can take, with what Mike Walsh is doing with the separate component pieces you can buy to work with the Yamaha YFZ 450R and easily do motor swaps. Why not? It seems like you've got guys like Bo Barron, um, and heck, lots of people at the ATV Motocross Nationals, especially in the 250 class. For the younger riders, where they're taking 250 dirt bike motors and dropping them in. I don't see any reason not to do it at this point. Um, I have not discussed it with Yamaha, although maybe I will ask at some point just to kind of feel them out, see what the vibe is. But I don't see Yamaha discontinuing the YFZ 450R like some people have alluded to if they went to a non-production based rule set. I mean, the sport needs to progress, and I don't see how. I think the YFZ 450R is a great machine. It's all most of us need. I talked to Jeff Henson yesterday at Dirt Wheels, and I'm like, because he'll be coming back to see you. He's building, Dirt Wheels is building a bike with Duncan and Roll Design and Elka, and it's right now all he's got done to it is a pipe and a vortex, and um, I think he updated the intake with a Pro Design kit, and he's just like, man, the bike is so good, it's so crisp, it runs so much better. I asked him yesterday if he ever planned on going into the motor or if he felt like it was enough. And he said maybe for the dunes, but other than that, like he feels like, and he used to race, he's a little older, just like all of us are getting older, but he's like, no, I think for most things it's all I really need. Um, so, but for the sake of high level racing, I just, how much further can the motor builders go? You know, how much better can you make that engine without just every time you add a fraction of power, you're taking away reliability from the engine. So,
You're just driving the cost up when you're taking that stock motor platform and just building it and building it and building it. Um, I almost wish they would limit some of that just to bring the cost down. But I agree. I agree with you, Joe. Um, Mike Walsh has got the idea with a platform that is replaceable so that they can use different engines. Um, there might be another company or two that would jump in if if hybrids were the thing. Um, I'm not really sure. We've heard some rumors that a 450 is coming from a different manufacturer. Um, I hope that if there is a 450 coming, that well, I've heard two different companies doing something, possibly. It can't, we can't always jump on it because we don't know. We don't know everything. And I have also heard that Yamaha's going to change the 450 platform.
Yeah, I've heard zero rumor speculation on Yamaha changing it. But, I know the quiet talk at Yamaha that, doesn't come out in press releases are they really wish somebody would do something. And we've discussed that a number of times. And Yamaha, I don't think Yamaha would be so excited for a new model to hit the market if they didn't already have something in the works. And the only other thing that kind of makes sense for them to do that is, look at what, Yamaha did with the Grizzly engine. The Grizzly engine is the same one in the Kodiak 700 engine. They went to that universal engine platform. Heck, they tried to get rid of all their smaller units until they realized there's a real demand for a small 4x4, so they brought back the Kodiak 450. Look at what Can-Am has done with the Outlander 500, 700, which share a 650 single. Look at what they've done with the new 850 and 1000, where they both have 1,000 cc engine. They have an 850 that has 1,000 cc engine, 999 cc's to be precise. So yeah, I mean, I wonder at this point, like, could Yamaha go to a dirt bike engine in the chassis, and redo the motor mounts? I don't know what all they'd have to change on that chassis to make it work, but or if they could even just update it to make it take a dirt bike engine. But I wonder if the cost would come down if they did it, just sharing an engine with the 450 dirt bikes, and now they don't have to produce a totally separate engine, because I'm sure that that new dirt bike engine has nothing in common with that quad engine that they developed back in probably 04, 05.
I'm betting there isn't any evolution that's the same, so they're going to have to get into a whole new tooling setup. The frame's probably going to change. Injector body might be able to stay the same. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know enough about it totally to answer your question. I just think that it's something's going to change in the industry. Um, I really believe that there's another 450 coming. Whether
We'll
it's
see.
1 year or 2 years out, I'm not sure. Um, I just think that it's too quiet at this moment for there not to be something going on. Every time in the industry that I've been around, because I've been around for a number of developments, that when everything gets really quiet and there's no talk and you can't get people to talk, it's because something's coming. They have
Well,
somebody
so
has
far,
something.
I mean, I don't know who you're talking to, but so far, it's not like people won't talk. When they talk, they say there's no interest and it's not there. So, we've had this discussion, to you, lack of talk means something is probably in the works. And to me, it's like, we're 10 years out since Honda went away, going on 11. We're on 11 model years since they've produced. I mean, after 11 years, why would you talk about it? especially when you're constantly being irritated by editors like me and Jeff, who are like, more, come on, guys, give us a quad. This is ridiculous. So I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think if they went to a hybrid rule, at least, you could have companies come out and do small limited runs of bikes that maybe wouldn't meet a production number, but they could have a turnkey bike sold in less volume that would still be legal.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what the right answer is. You and I had a conversation. I think I had a conversation with when I was on that when I was with that the group of guys in Can-Am. Supposedly CF Moto came out with a 450 motorcycle, a dirt bike.
I don't know if it's a dirt bike or if it's a adventure bike.
I'm not exactly sure because I didn't go look it up like I should have.
I don't think CF Moto has a 450 dirt bike. But the Chinese are coming, and maybe that'll spark some more interest from the Japanese. I mean, we've talked about it a number of times. Chaos 300 is supposedly slowly working its way through the red tape. And then we see brands like Cove, and some people call it Cove, some people call it Cove. I'm going with Cove because that's what Dirt Bike Magazine called it in their test of the Cove 250. So, there's another company that could jump in and do it. Maybe CF Moto will do it. We'll see. We're going to keep encouraging it. So
I have an off-topic question that kind of will go back to the flooding of the 450s during the heyday, supposedly, that some people call it in the ATV world. So if you look at the manufacturers in the motorcycle world, with all of the influx of motorcycle brands, Husky, KTM, Gas, Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Suzuki, and then Triumph is playing.
Triumph, Ducati,
Yeah.
right? Beta has a motocross bike now.
So do you think that they're going to hurt themselves ultimately and shrink the industry and cause it to have a problem?
I think you're already starting to see it. There's already rumors. I watched some dirt bike stuff because I'm a two-wheel guy too. I mean, I don't own any dirt bikes anymore, but I used to for years, and I still really like them. And I have a feeling I'll probably have another one in the garage at some point, sooner rather than later. But there's already rumors of the long-term liability of gas. And does that mean am I saying gas is going away? No, I don't have that kind of authority. I don't have that kind of knowledge. But there are rumors of, are all three of the Austrian brands going to stick it out? There have been reports of, cutbacks in racing and race teams in Europe for all three of these brands, because you've got essentially one company running three brands. So I think you're already going to start to see it, where there's already rumors of it in the Austrian camp. And, I kind of felt like Suzuki'd be the first to go, just because they won't change the bike. They won't update it,
Roxon's
now,
got an electric start.
What's that?
Roxon's got an electric starter now.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, you might see a button on the Suzuki for 26.
So what if Suzuki comes out with an LTR again?
Oh, I think if Suzuki came out with the LTR again, it'd be great. And I don't know what the economics of it are. Can-Am got slaughtered by the EPA over having a green wire you could cut and go to a dirty fuel map. Suzuki got beat up pretty hard because they had a second dirty fuel map in the ECU that you could access with the cherry bomb, and you didn't even need the cherry bomb to get it. I have been told that if you know how to change the wiring harness, you could just simply change out something in the wiring, change the ground out, and you could achieve the same thing. Cherry Bomb was just a plug and play item, and it was cheap. So why start cutting wires? I mean, Suzuki's got more to gain than anybody. You know, they have more to gain than Honda. And honestly, I think you have so many holdout people that want a red quad, but at the same time, that yellow quad has a whole lot of history. And yeah, I mean, Suzuki could take that old chassis, drop the new dirt bike engine in it with the appropriate transmission updates, and the Yamaha would be in trouble.
I really believe that LTR. So I'm not a huge fan. Okay. Never really bought into the machine, but I would get super excited if fix the transmission, do a couple little things to it, and just bring it back.
You know,
Because it's still a great platform and competitive.
I can see where you weren't necessarily a fan of it because you guys were really heavy in desert racing at that time. And I don't know if the LTR ever won much in the desert, but it certainly was a great motocross bike. And a lot of people who have ridden the LTR 450 that I know personally think it's the best handling ATV that's ever been produced. In our shootout in 2010, which I won't lie, it's the probably one of the best ATV shootouts done. Yeah, I'll take some credit for that, and and a lot of credit to my riders who did what they did to make that happen. But the LTR 450, you know, what's amazing about it is on the scales because we weighed all the bikes. It was, and we dynoed them all. It was the second most powerful uncorked. It was the heaviest on the scale, but when it came to the rider ratings of how it felt as far as weight, it tied as the lightest bike with the lightest bike in the shootout, which was the KTM. So, you know, the Suzuki has weight, but weight can be durability. And you know, my buddy Aaron Meyer, who has been with me helping test quads since day one, you know, he raced those bikes for years and said the chassis were pretty stout. They were pretty durable. Like you could beat on them. And so bring back that same level of build quality of the chassis, if not make it even better, and put a new motor in it. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. They just have to bring it back and clean it up.
You don't even have to put a new motor in it. They just need to beef the transmission up.
Beef the transmission up and get rid of that stupid briefcase of electronics that hangs off the side of the bike.
Yeah, that too. That too. I mean, there's some refinement that can be done, but you know, for the most part, you beef the tranny up, you could bring it back exactly as it is, and it would still be an outstanding model. They engineered it really well. You know, when when it comes out of the hole, out of the gate, it's designed so the front wind will lift, you know, X number of inches, roughly in the 6-inch range, and just accelerate down the straightaway. Not all of your machines are designed to do that. Plus, it also had built-in frame drag. They knew the frame was going to drag. So because of the low stance and the setup for motocross, and it would just slide right across things. There were some pretty smart dudes involved in building that machine. And you don't say that about Suzuki engineers very often. You know, they don't build a lot of things that are really that great.
Well,
But
I think Suzuki also had a lot of help from the aftermarket on that bike.
yes, they did. Yes, they
And they
did.
had a lot of top riders at the time helping to develop that bike. So yeah, I mean, I agree. They could just bring it back right now and, you know, get rid of the Halliburton briefcase of electronics, and it'd probably be great. And beef up the transmission.
I want them to beef the tranny up because it was a weak point. You know, you could break some of those trannies pretty quick. Um, which where you see where Yamaha made an ATV transmission or an ATV motor Honda beefed up their transmissions in their motorcycles. Why they didn't do that in the '06 version TRX 450R, I don't know, but it is what it is. You know, we go back to talking about Honda. I'm always going to have a sweet spot in my heart for Honda, but you know, I'm so over it because they don't really care. They do not care about the ATV world. Um, in the chat, 50 Magic says that he agrees Suzuki definitely has more to gain, but he thinks Can-Am's going to be the first company to come back out with a sport quad.
I mean, they certainly tease it. You know, you've seen them post pictures of the DS 450. We've seen them post pictures of the DS 650 online, and it's like, you know, and I've talked to them in person, and you've talked to them in person, and they don't seem to really want to discuss it. And I don't take that as a positive sign, the way that they don't want to discuss it, because to me, you know, it's almost like quit bringing it up. Can-Am certainly could. I'd like to see it. I think Can-Am's going to be one of the I mean, I wonder if they're going to beat Honda with an electric motocross bike, because you know the Can-Am motorcycle brand is back and they do have bikes, but they're all electric from what I remember of seeing of them, and I think they're kind of like adventure sort of bikes, you know, not like Harley touring, but like, you know, city bikes, getting around the city, or adventure bikes. So you know, I see them coming with an electric dirt bike here at some point soon. I'm almost expecting it.
They have some electric stuff coming. I was talking to them about it, and they didn't start the project thinking that it was going to be as good as it is. They did it for development reasons. They solely were doing it for developing learning. That's where their electric bike program came from. And then it hit the mark, or it hit the test deal, and it was way better than anybody expected. So they're going to run with it and keep developing it and go further. That Honda, from what I'm hearing and seeing, is pretty phenomenal. I would hate for electric motorcycles to take over the short course environment, but I would love for electric motorcycles to take over the park environment, to bring back motorsports in the neighborhoods so that we can teach the youth about how cool it is to ride a motorcycle, and get them off the phones and off the video games and get them out, you know, riding and playing sports again. You know, that you came up with that, you know, let's get the motorcycle back, or the ATV back, you know, have a motocross track right in your neighborhood where your baseball field used to be, because nobody plays baseball anymore.
Right, like it was in the '70s before the Karens came around
Right.
and shut it all down. You know, yeah, that's a dream. I will own one. At the point that the electric scene becomes big enough and we can get a park, you know, in our city to let us do it. I mean, I wouldn't even be mad to see more, you know, because we have a couple of BMX tracks in the area, and not obviously not for that Honda, but for like these little lower powered models like the Surons and you know the Segways that are like the lower power electric motorcycles, because they're not pedal assist. You know, I wish we could start getting BMX tracks to let them hold events with those bikes. Just to help them find a place. Did you get a chance to check out GNCC yesterday?
You know what? I only briefly got to look at some of the results and see a little bit of the videos. Um, Brandon Fraser locked up his title pretty much in the 4x4 Pro class. I saw that, and I believe that Jessica Elioff locked up her title, if I'm not mistaken. So please, if I am mistaken, don't
I'm
shoot me.
pretty sure that's what I heard as well. Yeah, I heard that Cody Collier basically was leading for a while, and Brandon was just kind of hanging out behind him, biding his time, waiting for a mistake or a problem. I don't know what allowed him to eventually take the lead. I caught the very end of the afternoon race and drug the timeline back to the beginning to watch it. And it's like, oh, okay. Apparently the morning race is a totally separate video. So I didn't get a chance to go back and re-watch the 4x4 class, but I did get a chance to watch most of the afternoon race, which was like Walker Fowler was pushing Bryce Neal like the whole time, like around the track. Like they were 1-2, never seemed to be more than 3-5 seconds apart, the whole time until one of the last laps, if not the last lap. And because I caught the end earlier on, but I didn't get a chance to watch it to the checkered flag. But I think they were on either the second to the last or the last lap, and there was a bunch of lappers getting hung up on a hill and just getting stuck. And they were talking like, "Oh, the pros are coming, and the leaders are coming. Oh boy, we're gonna get this cleared out." And uh, apparently, I don't know if Walker got past him right before this section. I'm thinking he must have, because both Walker and Bryce got hung up in the same section where all the other lappers had been getting hung up before, and Fowler had the lead. The Mud Fleas got him out first, and like 10 seconds later, they got Bryce out, and that was it. Fowler got it. So um, I don't remember hearing them saying that championship is yet locked up, but I think it's still in play.
It's still in play technically, mathematically, but it's a 16-point gap, and Bryson would have to DNF, and the DNF no points on the first lap. So it's not over, but it's kind of over. Walker needs to go out and win the last round, do his part, and let the chips fall where they may. The big freaking upset, the big upset or the big change is Grayson Eller. He went from leading to second in points by getting third. Alex Thyman won the race, took over the points lead by 1 point, and Braxton Gross got second. So those top three in that class are way clear of everybody else. But that title came down to whoever beats who at the last race is going to win the title. I thought Eller had it in the bag, with winning the last 2 rounds. He separated himself. But no, that's not what happened. He's 1 point back, and I did not realize it was that close.
Do you think how many of those guys do you think will take the step up to the XC1 next year?
I think Eller probably will. I don't think Alex is. I think this is his first year. I believe he'll stay back. I think Gross is going to stay back for a year. I know Gross is really working on trying to figure out what he's going to do, whether he's going to race East Coast or West Coast. I am not to bring it up, but there's trauma. I don't mean drama. I mean trauma to the work series. It's bleeding support and riders do some bad management in the ownership and the way they run it, and people are jumping ship. And I just don't see why he wouldn't jump on the XC where he has sponsorship, he has promotion, people want him there, and he's doing pretty good. So I'd go east if it were me, because you're not gonna build a career on the West Coast right now. There's just nothing supporting it.
I mean, if you jump ship in the work series, like jump ship to what? Like, where do you go on the West Coast? I mean, out here,
I don't think you go to the West Coast. There's some motocross series up north. There's a Northwest Quad Cross series that's doing well. And if you talk to Wesley Wolf, the boys are pretty fast. If you caught the show with Bo Barron on Wednesday, he talked about it and talked about that the boys that came out from the East thought that they were just going to walk all over the West Coast motocross guys. And, they had something else. They got woke up really quick that these boys are here to play, and they're faster than he thought they were. So that being said, there's that series up in the north western portion of the country. It's a shame that Works is having this issue. I hope they get it worked out. I really do. I mean, I loved that series for a lot of years. Spent a lot of time there. So
It's it's a long-standing series, and it's bike and quad. So those I bet they sorted out.
I hope they do. We're gonna run a shorter show today. Um, Guys, I appreciate everything. Joe, I really always appreciate you coming on and talking with me. I need to thank Elka Suspension for everything they do for us. GBC, as always, thank you so much. There is some changes coming for ATV Talk in the future here, so be looking for that. The Blunt family, Craig Christie, thank you so much. And Antelope Slot Canyon Tours, if your guys are in Arizona and you're on vacation, go take a tour. You're going to love the canyons. It'll make your amateur photography become professional photography because the canyons are so amazing. Joe, you got anything for us in closing today?
Well, it went from a 40-day drought to 3 days of consistent rain. So I think I got to stay in the house today. Kind
I'm
of
sorry.
bummed.
I'm sorry, brother. Hey, don't you have a new video coming out?
Soon, ATVs are getting more complicated, more features. So I'm about 18 minutes of a 25-minute timeline filled on these new Can-Am Outlander 850 and 1000. So that'll be coming out in the next 7 days.
All right, excellent. Can't wait. Looking forward to watching that.
Yeah, you're in it.
Well, that's why I'm looking forward to it. I always love to watch.
All right, all right, that makes sense. Yeah,
But
you're
that
in.
but that machine, regardless what you think of Can-Am and anybody, whatever you guys want to say, that machine is an awesome machine. You need to go ride one. You need to go check out that Gen 3. Uh, it's an awesome machine. I really enjoyed it. And I'm a sport quad guy. And for me to say that about a 4x4 sport utility quad, I think that says something.
Oh, dude, I'm super excited about that thing. It won our shootout back in 2020 um, against the Gen 2 Outlander did. They had just widened it an inch on each side back in 2019. So we grabbed it in 20, did a test on it. It beat out the Polaris. It was a competitive shootout. Polaris's bike was just a little softer clutching, a little softer suspension. Ergonomics were a little nicer on the Polaris for a big ride, but you buy a 1000 because you want to go fast and you want it to scare the shit out of you. And the Can-Am did that better. It definitely did. The Polaris is more like if I had to go ride Hatfield McCoy all day, I'd go ride the Polaris because it wouldn't wear me out as much. If I wanted to go out and feel like I was riding a 1000, the Can-Am was your bike. And it seems like based on what you've told me and, talking to some of the other guys that were there, that new platform is better in every way. And, we'll have one very soon. We have a Gen 2 Renegade here. There is no Gen 3 Renegade yet. Typically, the Outlander and the Renegade share same engine, same chassis, different plastic. The base tune of the suspension is a little different because the Renegade is more pure sport focused than the Outlander, which is sport utility. But we're gonna get a chance to compare that new Gen 3 Outlander engine and chassis to the Gen 2 Renegade, which other than body style and a little stiffer suspension on the Gen 2 Renegade, we'll soften up that Renegade suspension a little bit. We'll stiffen up the Outlander suspension, go with like the settings that you guys ran at the press event that you got you to like it the best. And we're going to run those two machines head to head and see how they stack up. I don't think
I don't think that Gen 2's got a chance.
It's going to be interesting because our plan at this point, hopefully we can make it happen. Is we're gonna have Cody Collier ride them because I want somebody who has a very high level, a ton of experience with the Gen 2 platform. Obviously, he's very curious to see how the Gen 3 compares. So, let's let a multi-time GNCC 4x4 champ who's still racing get out there on both bikes and see how it is. My only thing I've said to Cody a couple of times is, dude, these aren't reinforced. They're not built up. They're not gusseted. You got to slow down a little bit. I need to take 2 working bikes home. I cannot afford for you to break one of these things in half. And I don't think that's going to be a problem, especially on the new Outlander. I bet you that new Outlander Gen 3 is even more stout than the Gen 2 with the all new frame and a dual A arm back end. And yeah, that's probably the most exciting thing that's going to happen in ATVs all year is that new model.
I agree, brother. Well, Joe, hey, I want you to enjoy the rest of your weekend, catch up on some of your movie watching or finish off that video, something, or just hang out with the wife. But everybody in the chat and everybody watching the show today, thank you guys so much. Joe, as always, brother, it's a pleasure. And subscribe to ATV On Demand, UTV On Demand, Dirt Wheels, and ATV Talk where you can. Thank you, everybody. We'll catch up with you guys later.
Happy Sunday.
See you later, brother.